And I'd like to ask for a pro tem tonight. Marilyn is absent.
Make a motion, Bill Keck.
Second?
And roll call on that? Okay. Trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Hines?
Yay.
Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Do we pass Keck?
Let him vote.
Okay. Trustee Keck?
Yes.
Trustee Kazmir?
Yay.
And Trustee Bond?
Yes.
Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Over here. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we need to take a formal roll call?
Yeah, we might as well, just to
All right,
follow
take
the
the roll,
agenda.
please.
Trustee Bond?
Here.
Trustee Lee?
Here.
Trustee Hines?
Yay.
Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Trustee Kazmir?
Yes.
And President Pro Tem Keck?
Yes, here. All right, we'll move to public participation. The first point here is public comments. If there's anyone in the audience here tonight that would like to speak, please come forward to the podium, sign in, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mary Robb with Pace Bus, and I just came tonight to introduce myself. I brought you a packet of information. I wanted to highlight a transportation page that I created with our marketing department. And this you can just put on your website. It's current because it's linked to PACE, so we keep it updated. And Jeff and I are going to meet and go over the information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that cares to speak to or address the board? Okay, moving on, a proclamation for National Engineers Week, February 17th to the 23rd. Find it. Whereas engineers have used their scientific and technical knowledge and skills in creative and innovative ways to improve society's quality of life, and whereas engineers face the major technological challenges of our time, from rebuilding towns devastated by natural disasters to revolutionizing our infrastructure and technical progress, and whereas engineers are encouraging our young math and science students to realize the practical power of their knowledge, and whereas we look more than ever to engineers and their knowledge and skills to meet the challenges of the 21st century, now, therefore, Marilyn McElhaney, President of the Village of Montgomery, on behalf of its citizens and village officials, does hereby proclaim the week of February 17th through the 23rd, 2013, to be National Engineers Week in all of Montgomery, Illinois. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Please take the roll.
Trustee Lee?
Yay.
Trustee Hines? Sorry, Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Trustee Kazmir?
Yay.
Trustee Bond?
Yes.
Will you still get a vote?
I'll vote yes.
Okay.
Even though he's acting as president pro tem, he still is entitled to vote as a trustee.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the board, commission, and committee reports. Beautification Committee, Trustee Bond.
Beautification will meet on Wednesday, February 20 at 6 o'clock in the community room.
Thank you. Historic Preservation Commission will meet Monday, March 18th at 6:30 PM in the community room. Next is Intergovernmental Committee, Trustee Lee.
Meet Monday, March 25th, 6 o'clock in the community room before the board meeting.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Point A, minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 22nd, 2013. Minutes of the Village Board meeting of January 28th, 2013. Accounts payable through February 5th, 2013, in the amount of $606,289.65. The building report for January 2013. Accounts receivable report for January 2013. Appointment by the village president of Marion Bond, 3003 Foxmore Drive, to the Beautification Committee for a term from February 11th, 2013 through July 31st, 2014. Ordinance 1550, creating a G liquor license for 310 North River Street and 1560 to 1564 Douglas. Waiver of first and passage on second reading. Ordinance 1551, reducing the number of L liquor licenses due to Gray's Mill closing. Waiver of first and passage on second reading. Ordinance 1552, providing for the abatement of the 2012 tax levy on general obligation waterworks system alternate revenue source refunding bonds, Series 2007. Waiver of first and passage on second reading. Ordinance 1553, providing for the abatement of the 2012 tax levy on general obligation alternate revenue source bonds, Series 2008. Waiver of first and passage on second. Ordinance 1554, providing for the abatement of the 2012 tax levy on general obligation utility tax alternate revenue source bonds, Series 2010. Waiver of first and passage on second. And ordinance 1555, providing for the abatement of the 2012 tax levy on general obligation alternate revenue source refunding bonds, Series 2011. Waiver of first and passage on second. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Hines.
Yay.
Trustee Brawley.
Yes.
Trustee Keck.
Yes.
Trustee Kazmir.
Yay.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Okay, next item is items for separate action. Point A is award of the contract for lime residuals removal to Synagro LLC of Baltimore, Maryland, in the amount of $39.45 per dry ton, for an estimated annual total of $78,900. Director Kubens?
Thank you, President Keck. In January, the village published bids and opened them in February for lime residuals removal. In the past, we've called this lime sludge, so to give you a little perspective there on the project we're talking about. This is an annual work task that we need to complete at the lime softening plant on Nell Road. Lime residuals are a byproduct of the lime softening treatment process that we use at Nell Road. So as part of the process, we discharge these lime residuals. It's a slurry, it's part dry, part water, into lagoons in the back. We collect it there throughout the year, and then once or several times a year, we have to have those residuals removed. We have a permit from the IEPA to either land apply. The lime residuals are used as a soil amendment by farmers. We also have permission to put them in a landfill. It's generally more expensive to landfill them. So we put out the contract with the preference towards land application. Ultimately, though, it's the contractor's decision which way he wants to do it based on the price. Now, most all the bids that we get are for land application, again, because nobody's going to want to bid the landfill cost. So two bids were received. Both met specifications, and the low bid was Synagro LLC. Baltimore, Maryland is their national headquarters. They have different branches throughout the country. Synagro Central works out of Sugar Grove, I believe, is where their office is, but they do quite a bit of this type of work in the area. We bid the project on a per dry ton basis, so we only pay for the amount of dry residuals that are actually removed. The total amount, the $78,900, is based on an estimated quantity of 2,000 tons. The actual amount we pay this year will be whatever the actual tonnage is. So with that, I would answer any questions.
Is that the only bid we got?
We got two bids. One, Stewart Spreading of Sheridan, Illinois, also bid. They were $41 per dry ton. Synagro was $39.45 per dry ton. Those are the only two bids we got. We did have one other company pull the packet, but they did not submit a bid.
Thank you.
You're
What was the
welcome.
price
Are
last
there
year?
any other questions from the board?
What was the price last year?
Mid-40s. It came down.
Came down.
Came down. I can get that exactly for you, but it
As
came
long as I
down.
know it went down.
Yeah, in the contract, we have an option, a village option, to extend the contract on a yearly basis. It's based on the CPI value, so most years that's been pretty low. We did have a couple of years with fuel where the consumer price index was a little bit higher, so it took it up some. Still, even at that highest level, we were still paying lower than most of the original bids we got 5 years ago. We felt it was a reasonable price. This is obviously a lot better.
Are there any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Trustee Kazmierek?
Yay.
Trustee Bond?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yep.
Trustee Heinz?
Yay.
And Trustee Keck?
Yes. All right, thank you. Motion passes. The next two items are related, B and C. First is the local agency agreement for federal participation for Douglas Avenue Local Agency Functional Overlay, LAFO. How's that for an acronym? Roadway improvements. Director Pugins?
Certainly. As you said, this is a local agency agreement. This is proposed between the village and the Illinois Department of Transportation. This is for what is now known as the Local Agency Functional Overlay, which we used to call LAP, Local Agency Pavement Preservation. The reason for the change is they were trying to fine tune the description a little bit. LAP projects they felt were getting a lot bigger than they thought, so in the column of unintentional humor, they called it a LAFO. So we'll now have LAFOs coming before you. But this is an agreement between the village and IDOT. It discusses the cost responsibilities and the work responsibilities for the construction of this project. The project will be the milling and overlay of Douglas Road from Montgomery Road north to Melrose up to the Aurora boundary. We had requested these funds through the Kane-Kendall Council of Mayors Transportation Policy Committee, and were granted them. It's a 75-25% split. So you'll see down at the bottom, the village's estimated cost for the engineering portion of the project are $12,175. For construction, $81,172. That adds up to $93,347 is what we would be committing to. The total project cost is $373,388. Balance is made up in federal funds. So with that, I'd answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board?
I got just one. On the second page, or the first page, whatever, it says LA
Yes.
versus 81,000.
Yes.
We're not paying for that part, right? Just the 12,000.
No, we're paying that total down at the bottom, the 93,347 would be our share. The 81,172 is for actual construction work.
Okay.
The 12,175 is for what they call construction engineering, which is inspection and making sure the contractor's adhering to standards, that type of thing.
Okay.
And again, the lower right corner, the 373,388 is the total contract, total project amount.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions from the board?
I have Question, do we have any control over the timing of this work?
We can, IDOT will generally work with us. The letting, I believe, is in April of the year.
April?
April, I believe, is
So
when
it should
the
be
letting.
done in May, maybe?
May, June. Is there a particular date or event you're
What
considering?
I was thinking is, as Route 30 becomes more hostile to traffic, that Douglas Road corridor north might become more important.
I would venture that it's probably better that we do this earlier in the season than later, but we can talk to the department about that. I mean, once they have the letting, they accept bids, they go through a similar process of reviewing the bids and awarding, so there's a delay. Pete, would you say 6 to 8 weeks generally between the bid opening and construction? So May, June, it'll probably be June. On the positive side, mill and overlays are very fast jobs. I don't recall exactly how many construction days or calendar days, but it won't be more than a few weeks of actual work.
That was my thought, to minimize that conflict as best we can.
We can work to coordinate that as best we can.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, just one, I guess, for Attorney Anderson. It looks like on the last page, part of this project goes through Aurora too, right? The way it's,
Don't ask me to interpret the map, but,
all right.
but is there a
That's not,
question?
that's not a problem, is there?
It goes up to our border.
Montgomery only goes to Melrose.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yeah, it stops it. I think I'll have
In
to
the
double
roar.
check. I believe it goes through the intersection, but
But
mean,
that's still
it'll-
not,
I can
Maybe.
see why trustee Kazmarek was questioning it, because it looks like that boundary line cuts halfway through the block, or,
yeah.
a lot down, but I don't know the boundary that well.
That boundary line is accurate, because I don't think it may just be a mapping
Okay, that's fine.
issue, because I know it doesn't go through the side yards, or the rear, middle of those lots on,
I just make sure it wasn't a problem
I
with
know-
Aurora.
I know the south side of Melrose is ours. We had a sidewalk construction project 6, 7 years back, and
Okay, that was it.
so
All right, Director
Aurora won't
Kovens,
complain,
could you
but you
give
might.
clarification
I can.
on that?
Mhm.
So that's coordinated for that intersection, please. Are there any other questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Heinz?
Yay.
Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Trustee Keck?
Yes,
Trustee Kazmir?
Yay.
Trustee Bond?
Yes?
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
thank you. Okay, the next item is professional services agreement for Douglas Avenue Local Agency Functional Overlay, roadway improvements, construction engineering with Engineering Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $12,175. Director Kovens?
Thank you, President Kick. This, as you had said earlier, is related to the previous item. If you look back, you'll see under engineering, our portion of it is $12,175. That is to pay this agreement, should you approve it. This is an agreement between the village and Engineering Enterprises to perform the construction engineering when that project is underway for us. So we've already approved that budget to hire someone to do construction engineering. This agreement is to hire EEI to perform that work for us. Our share of that would be $12,175.
Are there any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Heinz?
Yay.
Trustee Brawley?
Yes.
Trustee Keck?
Yes,
Trustee Kazmir?
Yes.
Trustee Bond?
Yes.
Trustee Lee?
Yes.
thank you. Item D, ratification of the local 150 contract. Manager Zolfo?
Thank you, President Keck. Last week, I did give each of you a copy of the red line version that showed the things that were changing from the prior contract. That went to the union, and I did receive back word Friday that they had voted and accepted it, and then this afternoon, I received a signed-off copy showing that they had ratified it. So with that, we would ask the village board to approve it also. Answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second.
It's Been moved and seconded to accept. Take the roll, please.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Brawley.
Yes.
Trustee Keck.
Yes.
And Trustee Kazmir.
Yay.
Thank you. Okay, items for discussion, FY14 annual operating budget and capital improvements program. Administrator's office.
Thank you. This is our first public discussion on the budget. What I'd like to do at tonight's discussion is, one, go over the schedule of the budget process with you, give you a little overview of the entire budget, and then tonight I want to spend most of my time talking about the special service areas. That I think will then lead into the next item on our agenda after this. So, as far as the schedule, as I said, this evening I'm going to provide you an overview of the entire budget and then look at the special service area funds in detail. On Wednesday, we'll want to discuss the internal service fund. That's our employee insurance fund. Try to pick something we could discuss quickly there because you have a number of presentations to see on that night, so I want to get through that quickly. Next week's Committee of the Whole, we're going to discuss the debt service and trust and agency funds. The general fund will be discussed on February 25th at our board meeting. Then in March, we discuss the CIP and special revenue funds at the first board meeting. At the first COW, the water funds. Then at our second COW, we would have the public hearing and first reading of the budget ordinance. And at our last board meeting in March, we would have second reading and approval of the budget. So over the next 2 months, we would look to go through it all and get it approved by that last meeting in March. Just giving you an overview of the budget as it stands right now. Total expenses for all funds are about $24.3 million. Just for reference, last year's was $20.4 million. And most of that increase, you can see, increase in the water improvement fund is about $4.1 million. And that would have to do with the Boulder Hill project that we have discussed. It's adding to that total. Of the $24.3 million, the majority is in the, or largest portion, is in the general fund, $9.4 million, closely followed by the water funds at $8.6, and then it drops it down there. Capital improvement funds, $2.1 million. The majority of that is money that's being transferred out for debt service. And then you'll see debt service, the next one at 1.6. That's where it's getting the 1.6 million is from the capital improvement fund. Our special revenue funds, which is motor fuel tax, all the special service area funds, our forfeiture and seizure fund. Internal service fund, again, that's the employee insurance fund. And then last, our trust and agency fund, which is our police pension fund. Looking at the special service areas, I'm going to talk first. We have the Cornell SSA. When we did the extension over there, we issued debt and then levied a special service area there that where the landowners over there are paying that back. So the village bills and collects that one separately. That's about $12,000 is what's budgeted this year that we'll bill and collect for the debt service on that. So the rest I'm going to talk about here leaves this out, and it's just assuming the special service areas that are in the residential subdivisions. So the total SSA levies, excluding Cornell, is $457,000. Compares to last year's was $443,000. So you can see it's about $14,000 higher. 8 of the 12 levies are decreasing from the prior year, however. What we do have is Balmaray right now is showing about a $65,000 increase. That's what was adopted in the tax levy. At that point, we weren't sure if we were going to be responsible for it or if the developer was going to maintain it, because there was some issue with the former developer and current developer. So we do believe we'll be partially abating part of that, because it looks like the developer will be maintaining it. So again, even though it increased a little, it's really due to the Balmaray number. We were a little unsure, but we did see 8 of the 12 levies decrease from the prior year number. Total SSA expenditures right now are budgeted at about $412,000. And what I've done is I've budgeted 90% of the levy. I wasn't exactly sure. As I said, the next item, we'll be addressing this a little bit. But generally, we want to put part of it away for long-term items, and then, most of it is used for current year expenditures. So that's what's budgeted now, is 90% of the levy going towards current year. And then one exception in there that's not in that $411,000 is Fairfield Way. We've budgeted an additional $79,200 for some crack sealing, light road maintenance out there. And that is coming from closeout money that we received from the developer. So that's not coming out of the SSA funds. As part of the closeout, Kennedy Homes gave us some money to do some work that was needed. And so we'll be using that for that. And that really covers the special service areas. I mean, you're all familiar with them. So I just want to give you a look at how they compare to this year. As we go through the budget process this year, I think we're going to try, instead of me just giving you numbers, taking you through them, we're going to try and have some discussions as we go along. We're going to have a couple of Mike's employees come and talk about our vehicles, our tree program. We're going to try and tie in some other discussions as we can. Like tonight, I chose the special service areas because it leads into the item that Mike's going to discuss next. So we're going to try and give you some background, go a little in depth on some of the items rather than just giving you the dry numbers, hopefully. With that, I would answer any questions you may have about the schedule or the special service area.
We only have 3 of those that belong to the village, right? 3 areas?
Yeah, that's not included in these, but we do have the one out at the police station. We have one on Cornell. Do we have enough?
Orchard Road.
Orchard Road, so yeah, so we have 3 that come out of village funds. And those
Why
are
do we-
budgeted in the general fund.
Why do we collect from from theirs and let the village pay for it? Why can't their association take care of that? They give you the money, right?
Well, Cornell pays money for the road work that was done.
Okay.
The detention basin's a separate item, that's our detention basin.
All them detention basins are ours. There only 3 are ours, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying that, the one on Cornell is.
Yeah, but
Right.
I'm talking
That's for
about
maintenance.
the homeowners associations where we collect for
Right.
that. Why can't the homeowners association take care of that themselves instead of that going through us?
Well, if they could, I think it's easier for us to collect the money through the tax bill than for a homeowners association to try and collect that money. And I think we have more experience at doing the work, and if we can contract them all together, we also get economies of scale and can get a better price than the individual subdivisions could get on their own.
Well, last time I brought up, I'd like to have those R3 broke down from that.
And we are on the bills list now. If you'll see on tonight's bills list, there were 2 separate line items listed for Pizzo. One was for the SSAs and one for the village portion. So we are
Okay.
breaking that out separately.
Some of the subdivisions, like Foxmore, don't have a homeowners association, so there's no mechanism in place.
I would add that as a matter of policy, I recall for the reason of consistency, to get everything more or less taken care of at the same level, it was decided to do it this way rather than just leave them on their own, because there can be active homeowner associations and not real active ones, and they may or may not get it done, and then you have a problem. So it was mainly for consistency that I recall was the discussion for doing it this way.
Could I interject?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's correct. You had a conscious policy decision about that for exactly that reason. Not every community does it that way. Some communities leave it to the individual associations, and only if they don't do a good job do you step in. But this community made the decision quite a few years ago now to do it as a unified whole.
Any other comments from the board?
No, thank you. Answered my question.
I just had one question. If we're going to abate the Bell Marais, or partially abate, when would we have to do that by?
That would come to the next board meeting, February 25th meeting.
Okay. So it wouldn't show up on the tax bill then?
Right.
Because it would be abated. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one on the Fairfield Way, the $79,000 one. Can we do that part of the road improvement, or when we go out for bids for the crack sealing? So we're gonna do that all at once? The MFT stuff, we bid that out with that too, or
What was the last part of the question?
when we go out for bids for the crack sealing, when we do the
will go out
roads?
for bids, yeah. We'll make that part of our road program
thanks.
package for the year.
All right, cool, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Next point is stormwater basin maintenance contract extension proposal. That'd be Director Puvens.
Thank you, President Keck. Tonight, my focus is really to discuss with you not so much approval of a contract, but a preference for how we want to proceed. Before bringing any proposed contract extension to you, we've had lots of discussions between the benefits and I guess the negatives of bidding or not bidding certain types of contracts. So before I brought that item for approval, I thought it would be better to have a discussion on, again, what direction we want to take this program. So, Jeff, if you could. This is just an overview. As you know, Pizzo has been doing our basin maintenance for quite a few years now. This is just an overview map that we have, just showing the area, the locations of the different basins, and on the right-hand column gives you some descriptors by subdivision. We currently have 26 basins that are maintained. That this year will be an addition of one, the Balmaray, I forget, P, what do we call the overflow basin? Thank you. The compensatory storage area at Balmaray will be coming under our contract. Generally, in the past, we've had different basin tasks, I've called them. Some we describe as required. Those are in the green. General stewardship, which is the monthly inspection of the basin. It includes trash pickup. It includes weed control. It includes a review and analysis of the status of the basins, mainly to see if there are any trouble areas that have come up in between meetings. The ones listed in yellow we call alternate basin tasks. That means we sometimes budget for them but don't always do them. Again, when we do the analysis or put together the scope of work, we're trying to do we're predicting in the future what the condition of the basin is and what some of the required work might be. So we do try to accommodate some of these types of tasks. So that could include some low-mow, fescue mowing, supplemental seeding, and planting is one we do fairly often. That's to fill in bare areas or to get better diversity within a basin culture. Muskrat control, we have a few of the basins where muskrats are quite a problem. They like to eat plants. So special projects has been a variety of things that can be access installations to give people access to the shorelines where fishing is a desirable element to the basin. Not all the basins are used that way. Some of them are pretty much just, retention ponds, but some of them that back up to houses, there's been quite a bit of interaction between the people in the community and the basin that become part of it. Quality control, quality assurance, I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Access installations I had mentioned, and birdhouse monitoring is one that Pizzo will help us perform this year should they do the project. Again, we've had the Bluebird house project for a year now. We have over 50 of them installed in the community, so there's there's just a cleaning process that has to occur, so that would be nice to have that done. But again, their people are in the field regularly and would help us with that monitoring. I put this up. This is a slide from last year's presentation. You can see at the top we've got the 2011 basin program and then 2012 below. And we talked about the total. Let's go right to that. The total basin budget was $471,310, went down to $432,085. We talked about, again, what we've promoted all along with this naturalized program is that you'll have higher initial costs as you're trying to get basins up to the acceptance level and to keep them there. But then once they start to mature, you'll see costs go down. What we were able to show last year is we added 4 basins, an 8% budget decrease, 19% decrease in the average cost per basin, 26% decrease in the average cost per acre. Jeff? This year now, here's the 2012 repeated, and here's our 2013 proposed. And you'll see we've gone from $432 down to $334,000 as a proposed budget. Again, that takes into account we're adding one more basin, so we have more territory to cover. But again, 23% overall decrease in the budget, 26% decrease in the cost per basin, 33% decrease in the average cost per acre. The point being, I just want to demonstrate that the program is working. We were concerned about the high cost of this type of planning. We've seen that it's continued to come down, even as we've added area and more maintenance responsibilities to it. So, thanks, Jeff. Next one. I wanted to just take a moment to explain a little bit why that came down so much. Some of it is because the basins are maturing, they require less maintenance. One of the concerns last year when I presented our Pizzo proposal and we talked about levies was, what were we doing? We were levying a certain amount and spending less. And that looks good until you consider, well, that's money that's still levied against residents in the community. Now, on the plus side, that money stayed in the SSA accounts, but we wanted to try to minimize how much additional levy we were asking of people that we didn't actually spend that year. And what you'll see is, and this is just on a percentage basis, the alternates, we've gone through that list before, we really trimmed down the alternates list and tried to fine tune that, because that's really where some of that money, most of that money came from, that we thought, well, we may be spending this on supplemental seating, we may be doing an access installation. So going forward, we're only putting those numbers in the budget and in the levy that have a high probability of happening. So you'll see a big decrease in the alternates. The stewardship, some of the required has gone up, and then it's more of a function of the total coming down. But, thank you, Jeff. This is a slide from last year. It has not been updated for this year, but again, just to highlight some of the program success, and we've talked about that early on, basins require a lot of work, and which translates to more dollars, mainly in restoration, what we call restoration, but really getting them up to the standards. And you can see the basins on this half are the newer basins in the community, where most of the basins on this half are the older ones. And again, you can see some of the restoration quantities, again, as we work to get these basins up to our naturalized basin standard, have taken some input. But as we've gotten older, you can see it's really decreased, and the majority of the money is just in the required, which is the stewardship, prescribed burns, that type of thing. So again, we're starting to see that cost factor level out. Thanks. Again, one issue I wanted to talk a little bit more about was quality control and quality assurance. Throughout this program, we've had different levels of what I call our quality control program. One has just been visual, and these are photos that I've shown before, and we've seen them. I've just put a few up here, where we have a before and an after, and we highlight areas of improvement. Here, this is getting rid of weedy species that were starting to dominate. Jeff, if you go to the next slide. And again, just some visual quality control that we do. Next one. The next level, a little higher level of quality assurance that PISO uses is a field inspection log. This is used during their monthly stewardship visits. They go out and their field people take this, and you can see this is the entire form, but I've chopped off just part of it to make it a little easier to read, where they identify different types of weeds and undesirable plants that may be in the community and how they've treated them. So as their field crews go out, they record what work they're doing, what types of plants they're encountering, what actions they're taking to rectify those problems. The third step that we've been doing is an annual basin assessment. And I apologize for the small print. It's a little bit difficult to read. But each year we'll assess, give the basin an overall assessment and actually a grade. So we might say the basin is a B minus, a C plus. As part of that, then we'll also identify recommended work for the coming year, again, to try to continually raise that basin grade or the basin quality. Next, please. Now, going into 2013, as part of the PISO proposal, will be to begin what we call an annual monitoring report. And this is just a sample form that we've used. Again, this hasn't been implemented. But what this will allow us to do overall is to measure how well we're doing on these basins. And that can be by measuring counting the different numbers of species, counting the quality of the species, seeing our reduction in weed coverage, things like that. So we're going to have some empirical numbers that we can then look at from year to year to actually track our quality. We've seen a lot of data about tracking cost. That's relatively easy to do. It all gets recorded in the budget. If we move forward now, again, starting with 2013, we'll do an annual monitoring report on each of the basins, and again, a more empirical way of doing it as opposed to some of the visual and month-by-month methods we've used. So I just wanted to give a overview of what we've been doing. Again, the big change for upcoming would be to include that the monitoring report. Again, the basin budget has decreased tremendously. I'll just be open with you. My recommendation is that we extend PISO's contract for another year. I think they've been doing an excellent job. We've gotten great response from them. I think the quality has been there. The cost reduction has been there. But again, before I brought that item to you, just cold for approval, I wanted to have the discussion because I know in the past we have had some opinion that we should take this type of thing out for bid. There are some challenges with taking this out for bid. It's much closer to a professional service than it is a unit bid price type of construction project. That makes it really a challenging combination of if we're trying to put a dollar amount ahead of time on what somebody can do this work for. But with that, I'd open it up for any questions, comments, opinions.
I'm for bidding it out.
I got one quick question. With the drought we had last year and the one that's projected this year, how will that affect the basins?
Well, I think it'll affect the basins like any drought would. I mean, it's going to make it more challenging for the plants to grow. We do have several Pizzo representatives here. Seth Crackle, that you want to give a wave. Seth is in charge of the Montgomery project. Jack Pizzo is here also. He's company owner, so I don't know if either of you would want to address that, how drought might affect the upcoming basin maintenance in the plants for this year.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Does the board desire to hear some comments from Pizzo at this time?
Andy would like his question answered.
It's up to you guys.
Trustee,
Why don't you
I
come
believe
down,
I can.
have him come down to the podium here so we can understand what's being said.
We don't usually do this, so.
I know we don't, but this is going to be the first of many discussions. Just a quick summary, please.
To address Andy's question, one of the advantages of using native plants in these basins rather than non-native species that might be from Asia or other parts of the world is these native species have root systems that are in the meters deep. So when we have a drought like last year, it doesn't necessarily kill the plants. Within these deep root systems are the ability to maintain through a drought. So they might not look as pretty or be as photogenic on a drought year like last year, but they're going to, by and large, survive through to the next season.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the board?
Sorry, Mike.
You'd sign the log, please, so we know your name.
I guess the one with Belle Marais, I know that nobody's maintained that property for a while. Is that going to be included with whoever we bid it out to or go with?
Director.
Who's going to maintain that?
Balmarais basins would be under our control. We started with those, I believe last year, may have been the first year we started on the Balmarais basins. So they're definitely some of the younger basins in there. And one of the challenges there is we've done limited levying because it's the subdivision has not been built out. So we're trying to balance the need for funding with trying to maintain reasonable levy amounts.
But just as an additional point, that we have been working with the developer on that one, and are there two basins?
There are three basins
Three.
actually in the subdivision, and then the compensatory storage will make four.
Right, and when you say it hasn't been maintained, there is one at the back end, if you will, and that one actually they've been working quite hard to establish it, but have had difficulty because it's right next to Yorkville's regional area, and that one isn't being maintained, and so things keep coming over.
What's my concern is that even though we're spending all this money to maintain these, the area around it's not being maintained. So it just seems like you keep dishing money out to try and maintain these, and it's not going anywhere because every area around there is distressed or not being maintained.
Actually, we've recognized that challenge on that particular basin, on the compensatory storage basin. One, that there's a lot of weedy species outside of our control that can migrate in. And two, the way the basin is constructed, there are long periods where plants are submerged. So we've dialed back, quite honestly, from our naturalized guidelines on that basin to provide a more functional plan. One, we still want to minimize weeds, and weed control will be a big topic out there, but we won't try to bring that basin necessarily to the aesthetic and diversity standards that we have on those that are within the subdivisions.
So is that going to be more of the lower grass?
There will be some grasses there,
I mean,
but not like Kentucky bluegrass, turf mowing, no.
The buffalo grass or the lomo fescue?
There may be some lomo fescues, trustee, I'd have to go back and look at the plan, but Generally, Lomo fescues are up on the top of the banks, up on the flat areas, not really down in the slopes. And again, we're trying to minimize costs out there, so we're not planning a lot of regular mowing around that basin, somewhat remote. And
It just seems like that's going to be a challenge for that one, those.
could be.
Any other questions from the
Nothing.
board? Thank you.
I think Mike was hoping to get some guidance on if you'd like to see this bid out, or if you'd be interested in working on an extension with Pizzo. I know we've heard from trustee Hines. I didn't know if the rest of you'd be willing to weigh in, just to give us some direction.
Start with trustee Bond.
What I've observed with Pizzo is they've exercised a good deal of judgment and ownership in these basins. They've treated them each individually. They've responded to specific problems. I'm a little uncomfortable with a bid package where the judgment part might be dissipated and just the provision of a service might take over. There are, 28 of these basins now, and they really are all different. Some of them were very poorly conceived and managed in the startup phase, and I've seen rapid recovery of some of those basins under the stewardship and judgment of this company. Personally, I'm getting no complaints at all from residents about the value for dollar spent. But I think people know that I feel these are a valuable resource in our community and a considerable asset. Frankly, it's one of the reasons we built our home here, was the opportunity to be near one of these basins. So I think it's had a positive effect on our community. And I'm seeing a continued positive effect from the work this company has been doing. So while I wouldn't say I don't think we should never let it out for bid, I'm seeing significant value back for the investment we're putting into this group, and I respect the judgment and the ownership they've taken in our basins.
Trustee Lee?
I agree with Stan. I think they've really done an excellent job to where they were in the beginning. We've really seen an improvement. They have not spent all the money in the budget, which some people would have. Once they see that, they would have gobbled it all up, and every year they come in under what we have budgeted, so. And I think it's not a good time to change when we're at this stage.
Trustee Hines, anything to add?
All I can say is give somebody else a chance. How do you know they can't do a better job or just as good a job for less money? That's all I got to say.
Okay. Trustee Burley?
I would agree with what the others have said so far. I have not gotten one complaint from a resident about these basins, and I think we should give them a year extension on this.
Trustee Kazmarek?
I see both sides, where we should go out and try and get different, bids to try and lower the cost, but at the same time, right now, we did have a drought last year, and I think these guys know the basins better than anybody. And I think that's gonna be a situation this year too, and if you guys, it seems like the general census is to go with Pizzo. I don't know. I know there's other people out there that can do it, but I think in this situation, it's a little different because of the condition of the environment right now. So I'd say go with the Pizzo for right now. I know I pushed, I was pushing to have like fish in the ponds so people can go fishing. And when I was talking to residents this year, they saw a lot of dead fish because there was no water and there was a drought. And I think that's going to be, a situation again this year, so that's all. Thanks.
All right, the comment I would offer is I haven't heard any complaints really about the programs that are in place right now, and I see no reason to change with that. We have a company that has experience now with these ponds, somewhat knows them, and I see no reason to change at this point. So do you want a consensus?
I think we've got direction.
Or is that good?
I think that's good.
I appreciate all your comments. Thank you.
All right, proceed then. Okay, any new or unfinished business to come before the board?
Yeah, I got a couple. One quick one is, I don't know if you guys, some of you might not remember, Trustee Hines is probably the only one, but back in 1995 or 96, we had a refund policy or program for all the B boxes on the East Coast or East Side, Montgomery. Do you remember that program?
A refund policy?
Or not refund, it's where we replace the B boxes on the, in your subdivision.
Marbury Manor.
Yeah. And I guess what happened was we didn't replace them all. Do we have a record of who we replaced or whose B boxes we fixed or didn't fix?
I would have to check with our water department records and see if we do.
Okay.
Are
If
there
you can check.
problems out there? I mean,
Pete, do you remember that, don't you?
95, 96 was a year.
I guess, what's the question you're raising?
I guess they're saying that there's well, the residents saying there's a refund policy, that they're coming in and getting a refund. Some of them were, and he says, well, if we want, or he didn't say, but what he was trying to do is get a refund if we didn't fix his B box. And some of the residents he talked to said, yeah, just go to the village, they'll give you a refund. And I didn't know, because I wasn't around back then, and I don't know what's going on, but I figured I'd ask, well, Trustee Hines knows more, but if you guys can research it for me.
Look into it. So this is a refund of money he's paid the village, or?
Is this part of the elimination of the meter vaults that were out there? Yeah.
Into the pit
So
Yeah.
I think we need to do a little research, but it may have been that some of those homes didn't have a meter vault, and maybe that's the reason why it wasn't, replaced.
Okay, I don't know, but,
I think if you can give us opportunity to check it, I think that would be good.
okay.
Yeah.
I would also caution the board that if that's a policy that isn't enshrined in an ordinance somewhere, it's really not binding on you all. So just because it was, doesn't mean it is
I don't remember.
currently the policy.
I don't ever remember giving no refund to them, though.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. He just said there's some of the residents he talked to out there, so.
All right, Director Pumas, do you have direction?
Yes.
Okay. Any other business? Trustee Bond?
This will be difficult to see, but our Save the Cannon project is doing quite well. This weekend will be the benefit concert at the VFW. Tickets are still available. We've raised more than half of the funds that we think are going to be required to restore the cannon. I've been able to see some of the new wooden spokes for the historic old wheels, which are being made, by the way, from white oak from Kendall County, from a local source. And would like to encourage people, if they can, to support this program. It's entirely a volunteer effort. There's good energy behind it, and it's a good thing to do, and it's going quite well.
Any other matters to come before the board?
Yeah, one more. We had our 2-on-2 discussions. We had a discussion about cell phones and the purchase of cell phones. And I was asked to investigate the situation. So I talked to Verizon today, and they said that when we purchase the cell phones, you can return them after 14 days if they weren't used. But there's a 30-day policy otherwise. So if we returned them after 30 days, they would take them. But now they said that they won't take them back. So all these cell phones that were purchased, who authorized these? Because we have $4,000, $6,000, and $7,000 worth of cell phones.
I mean, we didn't add cell phones like to new personnel, but we replaced because we switched services. With Sprint, we weren't getting good service. We had dead spots. The police were having issues. So that's why we bought the phones because we switched service. We didn't buy them just to buy new phones, but because we switched companies.
Instead of buying a $300 cell phone, couldn't you just, if it's already a year contract, couldn't you just buy a phone for, the dollar, the $50 one instead of a $300 one?
I tried to cover that with you why we did that. The ones you purchase where you get them for $1, they'll do that if they lock you into a 2-year contract, because basically you're paying it over the life of that contract. You're not getting it for $1. We purchased them up front, and we're not locked into any time frame, and so we're paying a lower rate, monthly rate.
How much were those bills? Monthly?
I'd have to look. I couldn't quote off the top of my head what our monthly bill is. The cost he's talking about was the purchase of the phones. And not all of them were that price. It depends. There was a variety of phones depending on the person. The phones that like I got or directors got are different than the phones we provide to our maintenance workers or our police officers.
How many phones did we buy?
Again, I'd have to look. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I don't think everybody needs a phone, a cell
No,
phone.
and not everyone has one. We asked each department who they thought were the essential people to have them.
Well, we're supposed to be trying to save money. I don't see why we need cell phones anyway. You got personal ones of your own, don't you?
Right, they use them to communicate. The Public Works does not use the radios anymore. That's how they communicate, is through the push-to-talk feature on their cell phones, and that's how they communicate.
The total bill was 10,000 or less, or did it exceed that?
No, I don't believe it did.
So you had that spending authority then?
Any other unfinished business or new business? Okay, future meetings. Committee of the Whole, Wednesday, February 13th, 7 PM. Planning Commission meeting, Thursday, February 14th, 7 PM. Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, February 19th, 7 PM. The Village Board meeting, Monday, February 25th, 7 PM. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Moved and seconded, take the roll, please.
Trustee Heinz.
Yay.
Trustee Brawley.
Yes.
Trustee Keck.
Yes,
Trustee Kazmir.
Yay.
Trustee Bond.
Yes.
Trustee Lee.
Yes.
thank you.
You're gonna make your committee meet on Valentine's evening? It's gonna meet on Valentine's?
Just a few minutes before.
I did not have that.
It's great on a busy week.
I may not see you on Wednesday because it's a
Yeah,
Ash
it should
Wednesday.
have been right on